The Elder Care Protection Bill just became law. And if you are over 60 or if someone you love is, here is everything you need to know right now. Stop what you are doing for the next few minutes, because what I am about to walk you through could genuinely put hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars back into your household this year alone. A landmark piece of legislation has just cleared the United States Senate. And if you are over the age of 60, or if you have a parent, grandparent, or anyone you care about who is, this is not background noise. This affects you directly. We are talking about your retirement income, your prescription drug costs, your monthly Social Security check, the safety of nursing home facilities, and the protection of a lifetime's worth of savings from the people who want to take it from you. Here is the piece that almost no one is talking about. Not every benefit inside this bill lands in your lap automatically. Some of these provisions only activate if you take specific action. Some have deadlines. Some require you to update your information with the right agency before a window closes permanently. If you miss the steps, you miss the money. It is genuinely that straightforward. So today we are going to break down every major change inside the Elder Care Protection Bill in plain, clear English. No legal jargon, no political spin, no confusion, just the facts you actually need, so that you and your family know exactly what you are now entitled to, what has changed, and what to do next to protect your future. Stay with me all the way to the end, because the action steps, the part that actually determines whether you see any of this money, are coming up later. You do not want to step away before we get there. Let us start with the background, because understanding why this bill exists makes everything else click into place. For decades, American seniors have been quietly navigating a system that was never truly designed with them in mind. Prescription drug prices that defied all logic, nursing homes operating with almost no real accountability, cost of living adjustments that could not keep pace with what retirees were actually spending every month, and a surging wave of financial fraud steadily stripping hardworking Americans of the savings they spent entire careers building. These were not minor irritations. These were genuine crises unfolding quietly inside millions of households across the country, year after year. And for most of that time, they received little more than passing attention from lawmakers. The Elder Care Protection Bill is one of the most sweeping pieces of senior-focused legislation passed in a generation. It reaches into nearly every corner of life that matters after age 60. Healthcare, housing, personal finances, mental health, caregiver support, and personal safety. The reason we need to break it down carefully is simple. The news cycle moves fast. Headlines appear and disappear. But the real-world details, the specific changes that will actually impact your wallet and your well-being, rarely get the in-depth treatment they deserve. That changes right now. Let us start with prescription drugs, because this is one of the most significant wins in the entire bill. And it has been a long time coming. For years, Medicare was legally prevented from negotiating drug prices directly with pharmaceutical manufacturers. Take a moment to let that sink in. The single largest purchaser of prescription medication in the entire country was prohibited by law from using its enormous buying power to bring prices down. Private insurance companies could negotiate. The Department of Veterans Affairs could negotiate. But Medicare, which covers more than 65 million Americans, could not. The result was predictable. Seniors in the United States were paying some of the highest prescription drug prices anywhere in the developed world. The identical medications that people in Canada, Germany, and Japan were purchasing for a fraction of the cost were being sold to American seniors at full, unregulated price. The Elder Care Protection Bill expands and accelerates the reform of that broken system. Under the new rules, Medicare can now negotiate prices across a significantly broader list of medications, and those negotiated prices take effect on a faster timeline than previously scheduled. What does that mean at the pharmacy counter? If you are currently spending $200, $300, or even $500 every month on medications for diabetes, heart disease, blood pressure, or arthritis, there is a very real chance those costs are about to come down. not in some vague, distant future, on a rolling schedule that begins implementation now. The bill also establishes a firm annual cap on out-of-pocket prescription drug costs for Medicare beneficiaries. There is now a hard ceiling on what you will pay in any single year, regardless of how many medications you take or how expensive they are. For millions of seniors who have faced the impossible choice between filling a prescription and keeping the lights on, this is not a small adjustment. This is life-changing. Now let us talk about Social Security, because this is the issue that stirs the deepest emotions, and rightfully so. Social Security has been the financial foundation of American retirement since 1935. It was built as a promise. You work, you contribute, and when your working years are behind you, the system is there to support you. But over time, that promise started to feel increasingly fragile. The annual cost of living adjustment, known as COLA, is supposed to protect your benefit from inflation. Every year, the Social Security Administration reviews inflation data and adjusts your monthly check accordingly. Here is the problem seniors have been raising for years. The inflation formula being used does not reflect how older Americans actually spend their money. The standard index tracks the purchasing patterns of urban wage earners and clerical workers, people buying gasoline, electronics, and work-related expenses. But seniors spend very differently. A much larger share of their budget goes toward healthcare, prescription medications, and in-home assistance. And those categories inflate faster than almost anything else in the economy. The Elder Care Protection Bill tackles this head-on by pushing for the adoption of an inflation index specifically designed around senior spending patterns. What that means in practice is that your annual Social Security adjustment will finally begin reflecting what your life actually costs, rather than what someone else's life costs. Over time, this shift could mean hundreds of additional dollars in your pocket every single year. On a fixed income, that compounds quickly. The bill also addresses the long-running concern about Social Security's long-term financial health. For years, experts warned that without intervention, the trust fund could face depletion in the mid-2030s, which would have triggered automatic benefit cuts across the board. Nobody wanted that outcome. The bill strengthens the funding structure by adjusting the payroll tax cap so that higher earners contribute more into the system. This stabilizes Social Security not just for today's retirees, but for the generations coming up behind them. Let us move to nursing home reform, because this section of the bill deserves far more attention than it typically receives. If you or someone you love is currently living in a care facility, or if that is something you are thinking ahead about, what happens inside those buildings matters enormously. The difficult truth is that nursing home neglect and abuse in America has been a stubborn, persistent problem. Reports from the Department of Health and Human Services have documented for years that a significant percentage of facilities carry citations for serious violations: inadequate staffing, poor sanitation, medication errors, and in the most troubling cases, outright physical and emotional abuse of people who had no way to protect themselves. Under the Elder Care Protection Bill, nursing homes that receive Medicare and Medicaid funding, which covers the vast majority of facilities, are now held to substantially stricter staffing requirements. The new rules establish mandatory minimum staffing ratios. There must be a defined number of trained caregivers available per resident at all times. That may sound administrative on paper. In real life, it means your mother, your father, your spouse will have an actual person available to help them when they need it, not just when the schedule allows. Understaffing has been at the root of countless preventable tragedies inside care facilities. This bill takes direct aim at that. The financial penalties for safety violations are also climbing steeply. In the past, fines were modest enough that some facilities quietly absorbed them as a routine operating cost. That era is over. Fines are now significantly higher, and repeat offenders face the prospect of losing their Medicare and Medicaid funding entirely, which for most facilities is effectively a sentence of closure. There are also new transparency requirements built into the law. Facilities must now make their inspection reports, staffing data, and full violation history easily accessible to the public. So when you are researching a facility for yourself or a loved one, you will have access to real documented information, not just the polished brochure they hand you at the front desk. Now, let us spend time on something that does not get nearly the coverage it deserves: elder financial fraud. This is a silent epidemic. Every single year, older Americans lose tens of billions of dollars to scammers, con artists, and financial predators. The schemes arrive in every form imaginable: fake IRS agents on the phone, Medicare billing fraud, investment scams, romance scams targeting widows and widowers who are lonely and trusting, contractors who collect a deposit and vanish, and in some of the most heartbreaking cases, family members or caregivers who quietly drain the accounts of someone who trusted them completely. The FBI has consistently ranked elder financial exploitation among the fastest-growing crimes in the country, and victims frequently feel too ashamed or too confused to report what happened to them. The Elder Care Protection Bill creates a dedicated, sustained funding stream to fight back against this. More federal investigators trained specifically to identify and pursue these cases. More resources directed toward victim recovery and support. Stronger coordination between federal agencies, state law enforcement, and financial institutions. Banks and credit unions are now both encouraged and in many cases required to flag suspicious activity in accounts held by seniors, and to follow specific, defined protocols for reporting potential exploitation. This matters enormously because financial institutions are often the very first to spot the warning signs: a sudden large withdrawal, multiple wire transfers to an account that was never used before, a new name appearing on a long-standing account. These are red flags, and now those institutions have both the responsibility and the tools to act on them. The bill also funds public education campaigns aimed directly at seniors, because awareness remains the single most powerful defense against fraud. When you understand the tactics, you are far less likely to fall for them. Let us talk about housing next, because for most seniors, the home they live in is not just their largest financial asset. It is the center of their entire world. The ability to age in place, to grow older surrounded by familiar walls, familiar neighbors, and a community built over decades is something most people want deeply. But the reality is that the majority of homes were never designed for the later stages of life. Stairs that become treacherous, bathrooms without grab bars that turn into accident scenes, doorways too narrow for a walker or a wheelchair. And the modifications needed to safely remain at home can easily run into the thousands of dollars that many retirees simply do not have available. The Elder Care Protection Bill significantly expands funding for home modification assistance through grants and low-interest loan programs. Eligible seniors can now access financial help to install ramps, widen doorways, add walk-in showers, improve lighting, and make kitchens more functional and safer. These are not cosmetic upgrades. They are basic safety improvements that allow people to remain independent and avoid being moved into a care facility before they are truly ready. The bill also invests in broadening affordable senior housing on a larger scale, communities designed around accessibility, proximity to healthcare, and the kind of social connection that research consistently shows is essential to health and longevity. Here is something most people genuinely do not know. Chronic loneliness in older adults is as damaging to physical health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That is what the science shows. Investments in housing that keep seniors connected to their communities protect far more than just their comfort. The Elder Care Protection Bill also includes meaningful provisions to expand mental health access for Medicare beneficiaries. And this section deserves to be taken seriously. Right now, accessing mental health care through Medicare is complicated, expensive, and often limited by the fact that many therapists simply do not accept Medicare patients because reimbursement rates are too low. Add to that the very real stigma around mental health that remains particularly strong among older generations who grew up in an era when these conversations simply did not happen. The bill works to dismantle these barriers by improving reimbursement rates for mental health providers who serve Medicare patients, and by expanding telehealth options so that seniors in rural areas or those with limited mobility can receive professional counseling from their own homes. Grief, loss, chronic pain, the quiet fear of becoming dependent on others. These are real and heavy emotional burdens that millions of older Americans carry every single day. Reaching out for help is not weakness. It is one of the wisest decisions a person can make. And this bill helps chip away at the outdated belief that suggests otherwise. Now let us talk about caregivers, because this is a group that falls through the cracks in nearly every major policy conversation, despite the fact that their work touches tens of millions of families. There are an estimated 53 million unpaid family caregivers in the United States right now: sons, daughters, spouses, siblings, close friends. People who have stepped up to shoulder enormous responsibility for an aging loved one, often while simultaneously holding down a full-time job and managing their own family and health. The toll is significant. Caregiver burnout is not theoretical. It is widespread. Depression among caregivers is strikingly common, and historically, these individuals have received almost no financial support, no structured training, and virtually no formal recognition for what they do. The Elder Care Protection Bill begins to change that. New tax credits are now available for family caregivers, allowing them to recover a portion of the out-of-pocket costs they absorb on behalf of their loved ones. There is dedicated funding for caregiver training programs, so family members managing complex medical situations at home can do so with confidence and safety. And there are expanded respite care options, giving caregivers the ability to take temporary breaks without feeling like they are abandoning their responsibilities. A rested, supported caregiver is a more effective caregiver, and that directly translates into a better quality of life for the senior they are caring for. This is a win in every direction. Let us address the part of this bill that has generated some of the biggest headlines: the push to expand Medicare coverage to include dental, vision, and hearing services. Right now, original Medicare does not cover routine dental care, routine eye exams, or hearing aids. And this is not a minor gap. These are not luxury services. Untreated gum disease has been linked to increased risk of heart disease, diabetes complications, and cognitive decline. Uncorrected vision problems raise the risk of dangerous falls and serious accidents. And untreated hearing loss is one of the strongest modifiable risk factors for dementia identified in current research. The Elder Care Protection Bill makes real, meaningful progress here. While full Medicare expansion for these services remains an ongoing political and legislative battle, this bill includes new subsidies to help beneficiaries afford hearing aids, devices that currently carry price tags of several $1,000s. It funds pilot programs to expand dental care access through federally qualified health centers, and it broadens vision care availability through community health programs. It is not everything advocates have called for, but it is genuine, substantive progress moving in the right direction. Now we arrive at the most important part of this entire conversation, so please give me your full attention here. Not every benefit in this bill is automatic. Some require an application. Some require you to update your information with Medicare or Social Security directly. Some have enrollment windows that will close, and once they close, they are gone. Start by contacting your local Social Security office or visiting the official Social Security Administration website. If your state has a state health insurance assistance program, and every state does, schedule an appointment with a certified Medicare counselor. This service is completely free, completely unbiased, and exists specifically to help people in your exact situation understand changes like these and take advantage of what they are entitled to. Now, and this is critical, be extremely careful about anyone who reaches out to you by phone, text, email, or social media offering to help you apply for new benefits under this bill in exchange for money or your personal information. Scammers move fast. Within days of any major legislation passing, fraudsters begin crafting pitches built around it. specifically designed to trick seniors out of their Medicare numbers, Social Security numbers, or bank account details. The language sounds official. The urgency feels real, and it is entirely fabricated. Here is what you need to remember. Legitimate government services are always free. The Social Security Administration will never call you demanding immediate action. Medicare will never ask for your credit card number over the phone. If anything about an interaction feels wrong, hang up, close the browser, and call the official agency directly using a number you look up yourself. Before we close, I want you to take a moment and think about your own experience. Think about the times you have stood at the pharmacy counter, quietly calculating which prescription you could afford to fill this month and which one you would have to wait on. Think about the worry of watching a parent in a facility that never seemed to have enough staff on hand. Think about the phone call from the bank about a transaction you did not recognize. Think about a quiet afternoon when the weight of this chapter of life felt like something nobody around you fully understood. This bill is not a perfect solution. No single piece of legislation ever is. But it represents a real, substantive, and measurable effort to make daily life better for older Americans in ways that are concrete and meaningful. And perhaps more than anything else it does, it sends a signal. A signal that the challenges facing seniors are finally being taken seriously after far too many years of feeling overlooked. There are still battles ahead. Implementation takes time. Budget negotiations happen every year. The forces that profited from the old system, pharmaceutical companies, irresponsible care facility chains, financial predators, will not step aside quietly. They will lobby. They will litigate. They will look for every opportunity to chip away at this progress, which is exactly why staying informed, staying engaged, and staying connected matters more now than ever, because the strongest protection any law has is a public that understands what is at stake and refuses to let it be quietly taken away. Knowledge is not just power. In situations like this one, knowledge is protection.